Brest are big. They are a big team and they've been amazing so far.
I'm here to give you some hope for Club Brugge, guys. Could it be that the likes of Zolis and Nilsson create an upset for the ages here? I don't see it, unfortunately.
Juventus and draw. It's a match made in heaven. Juventus have...
Hello there and welcome to episode 8 of the Squawka Predictor podcast. We have reached the end, the climax of the Champions League phase. And joining me to predict the final round of games where there's still plenty to play for is our resident football expert, Dean Smith. And he has maintained the moniker, the Oracle, all season long so far because he has come in for some, not just some pretty good predictions, but also some outstanding ball knowledge more generally. It is, of course, Rimedi. Gents, let's get straight into it then. We have 10 games to get into, starting with Dean and Aston Villa versus my underdog pick, and I am going to keep mentioning it until they fall on fallow ground, Celtic. Dean, you have 60 seconds, starting now.
Yeah, Aston Villa can be really happy with their performances in the Champions League this season, and I can see them ending on a high against Celtic at Villa Park on matchday 8, and that could even sneak them into the top 8 if other results go their way. Celtic will not be easy to overcome though. They've been combative all the way through. Only 3 teams have made more tackles than Celtic in the Champions League this season, and they've managed back-to-back clean sheets on the road as well against Dynamo Zagreb and Atalanta. I mentioned prior to the Monaco game last time out, Leon Bailey struggles in the Champions League, and wow, he continued to struggle in that game. Missed 2 big chances and managed just 8 passes completed in his 57 minutes. You can understand why Villa have gone out and tried to bring in some reinforcements in the attacking areas. Daniel Marlon won't be registered, but he has got 2 goals and 1 assist so far in the Champions League for Dortmund. I can see Villa managing a 2-0 win against a strong Celtic side who don't have too much to play for here.
Okay. I mean, Celtic could finish top 8 technically.
Yeah, but it's very, very unlikely. I think... like I said, they can be happy with what they've done so far. They don't have to go to Villa Park and pull off a madness.
I'm very happy with what they've done so far. Yeah. If they do finish in the top 8, you'll be hearing from me, Mr. Smith. Right, Rimedi. Let's go on Brest versus Real Madrid. Your 60 seconds on this one. Start now.
Brest are big. They are a big team and they've been amazing so far in the Champions League. They have been outperforming the likes of Real Madrid, who sit in 16th place, the likes of a City, the likes of a PSG, and they've slowly gone about their business. Unfortunately, they did lose their last game out to Shakhtar, and they were wholeheartedly dominated, but Brest turn up for the big games. And Real Madrid, there's no bigger game. When it comes to Real Madrid so far in the Champions League, at the start they faltered. There were talks of them not even qualifying for the top 24. But this season, or especially heading into the new year, there's something new. There's something revitalized about Real Madrid. Kylian Mbappe has finally remembered who he was. He remembered the password to his footballing account. And finally, he is probably the best player in the world again. What he's done so far in 2025 has been insane. The likes of Vinicius Jr. may miss the game due to suspension. Well, may miss the game. He will miss the game due to diving in the last game against Salzburg. But I think Real Madrid come out on top 2-1.
We'll allow you the few extra seconds there because you began with Brest is big and then a dramatic pause. Puerile, but we love it. Right, Dean, moving swiftly on. Let's see if we can get any innuendo into Barcelona versus Atalanta. 60 seconds, start now.
I've got one last chance to talk about Rafinha. I know I've done it so many times during this league phase, but once again, he was the star for Barca last time out. Scored the winner, 8 goals now in the Champions League. He's also second for shots and chances created. Player of the tournament so far for me. But in this game, Barca have already secured their top 8 finish, and it's all about Atalanta's chances of doing the same. One stat that may surprise a few Chelsea fans out there, David Zappacosta has created more big chances than any player in the Champions League this season, aside from Jamal Musiala and Angel Di Maria, but he has played fewer minutes than those two. And Atalanta have actually completed the most crosses as well with 52. So they could have some joy against Barcelona here. Barca don't have too much to play for, and in Ademola Lookman, Atalanta have a striker that they can depend on in front of goal as well. 3.76 non-penalty XG, 4th highest in the Champions League so far. I think it's going to be more goals, more madness. Atalanta to win 3-2.
Nice. I like that. That's a big shout. Okay, next up, Rimedi, is your underdog pick versus the team you support. Is it time to throw Girona under the bus and admit you got them wrong? Your 60 seconds on Girona versus Arsenal. Start now.
Girona wasted my time in the Champions League. Honestly, I backed them, I supported them, but unfortunately, Girona were not the team for me. But against Arsenal, Girona will face a 2-0 defeat. I'm very confident that Arsenal will sign someone. Please. Do you want to sign someone? But jokes aside, against Dinamo Zagreb, yet again, it was the end of our 5-game home game run. And again, it was utter domination. Zagreb couldn't really leave their box. And it'll probably be the same out at Montelivi, which is Girona Stadium. I feel that Odegaard, he's kind of stepping up back into form. I feel that Ethan Nwaneri, he's probably been Arsenal's revelation this season alongside Miles Lewis-Kelly. And I feel that with the running games, especially with Arsenal playing Wolves, and I expect Arsenal to beat Wolves before the Girona game, I think Ethan Nwaneri will have a big part to play. Kai Havertz keeps scoring in the Champions League, so it's going to be a 2-0 win over Girona. I'm sorry, Girona fans.
Of which you were one at the start of the season.
Keyword was.
All right, Dean, Inter versus Monaco. Inter not quite mathematically securing that top 8 versus Monaco, who sit just on the cusp. 60 seconds starting now.
Do not sleep on Inter Milan as a potential Champions League winner this season. They've been the best defensive team in the tournament so far, just 1 goal conceded. And what's even more remarkable is they've actually faced 107 shots. That's more than the likes of Girona, more than Dynamo Zagreb, more than Bologna. So it shows how strong they've been at keeping teams out. They're patient in possession, as we've seen. They've completed more passes in their own defensive third than any other team in the tournament so far. And against Monaco, they come up against another strong defensive side. Monaco were excellent at the back against Aston Villa last time out. Thilo Kehrer putting in a man-of-the-match performance. He managed 6 tackles, 4 interceptions and 4 aerial duels, 1 to keep Monaco in with a shout of that top 8 finish. But Inter have won 4 of their last 5 Champions League games by a 1-0 scoreline. Lautaro Martinez, I had a bit of a go at him at the start of the tournament. He's picked up 2 goals. He's been a threat for them going forward. I think he's going to get a goal and Inter will win 1-0 once again.
Dark horse shout for the whole thing.
I just think, defensively, if you're that good, it doesn't seem sustainable with like the amount of shots that they're conceding. But yeah, if you're not conceding goals, then you're going to go pretty far.
Absolutely. All right, Rimedi, Juventus versus Benfica. Your 60 seconds start now.
Juventus and draw. It's a match made in heaven. Juventus have picked up 8 wins in Serie A this season, but 13 draws. They're invincible, but they sit in 8th place, which kind of goes against what I believe the Arsenal team to be the best team of all time. Anyway, going back to Juventus, I feel that so far this season, they've not clicked in a way we'd expect under Thiago Motta. They haven't lost the game so far in Serie A, but in the Champions League, they just haven't been hitting like that. Inconsistent performances, and when you face yet another inconsistent team in Benfica, what do you think I'm going to predict? Absolutely, this game is going to be yet another 0-0. Both teams are, albeit, qualified to the playoffs, but Benfica sit on 10 points, and even though Juventus may beat Benfica, they'll probably be through, albeit it's not in their hands. I feel that so far this season, players that you can really look out for Juventus is Mbangula, Kenan Yildiz, but this game has 0-0 written all over it.
Okay, like you say, Juventus are through, Benfica not quite through, but we are getting down to what we think at least is going to be the story of the match day, down in the kind of positions from 20th down to 27th or so. Dean, you're going to pick up the narrative with Manchester City versus Club Brugge, and this is surely where most neutralised will be on Wednesday night. Your 60 seconds start now.
Yeah, neutralised will be on Man City versus Club Brugge, and neutralised will be hoping for a Club Brugge win, the biggest story of Man City being knocked out of the Champions League at the league phase. And I'm here to give you some hope for Club Brugge, guys. So, 19 games unbeaten at the time of recording, 4 unbeaten in the Champions League, and within that, they've picked up wins over AC Milan and Sporting Lisbon, and also got a vital draw against Juventus last time out. They were actually the better team as well against Juve. They had more shots, created more chances. They managed an impressive 20 tackles won and 25 clearances completed as well. So, with City's defensive fragilities, as we've seen against the likes of Feyenoord and Juve, could it be that the likes of Zolis and Nilsson create an upset for the ages here? I don't see it, unfortunately. Man City have got Erling Haaland up front. He's got the highest non-penalty XG of any player in the Champions League. He's going to get a goal. City are going to break some hearts. 2-0.
You started that out by saying you were going to give the neutral some hope of an upset, and you reneged on it.
There's reasons to believe, but I think go into the game believing it could happen, but don't actually think it's going to happen. That's the best way to do it.
We'll see. We'll see what Wednesday night brings. PSV almost safe against the Liverpool side with literally nothing to play for. They are through and sitting quite pretty at the top of the league phase. Rimedi, your minute to preview this one starts now.
I think this might be the most nothing game so far that we've previewed in the Champions League. I feel that PSV are albeit through after a really tough and nervy win over Red Star Belgrade. They were up 3-0 and they conceded 2 late goals and everything was all over the place. But they got the win and PSV are most likely through to the next round of the Champions League. For Liverpool, it's probably going to be a game where they rest a lot of players. Liverpool have a lot of games coming thick and fast. They have a game in the Carabao Cup the following week where they have to win in order to reach the final. I feel that this game will probably be a boring game, but shout out to PSV because they have been unbeaten at home in the Eredivisie so far. And Liverpool come with their form being up and down in the Premier League so far. But I think Liverpool get the win and I think it's going to be 2-1. I don't even need the minute because it's a nothing game.
All right, fine. We'll move swiftly on then. From 1-0 game back to the business end of the league. Dean, let's pick up the story. If you think Man City are going through, will it be at the expense of either Stuttgart or Paris Saint-Germain? Your 60 seconds start now.
PSG, where do you start with this PSG team? All the way through the league phase, we've been saying they create chances, they don't score goals, and then what do? They go and score 4 in one half against the pre-tournament favourites. Absolutely crazy. And the man to inspire that comeback win for PSG was, of course, Bradley Barcola. Now, all of our followers on social media will have already seen this, but let's roll off his stats from that game once again. 10 touches in the opposition box, 4 shots, 4 duels won, 3 successful take-ons, 2 chances created, and for the first time in his career as well, he got a goal and an assist in the same Champions League game. Stuttgart are a classic sort of gegenpressing team. 2 of their players, Enzo Mio and Atagan Karazor, rank in the top 3 for possessions, 1 in the final third. So they won't give PSG any time in this game. Unfortunately, though, if things are going as expected at the Etihad, then a draw is likely to be enough to put both of these teams through. So I can see them playing out a 1-1 draw and all that drama is going to just fade away.
It would be a bit of a shame, wouldn't it, after what has been, 3 or 4 months of build-up now for this moment in the league phase. We'll talk a bit about the format in due course, but if it does look like that game is going that way, come, say, 9:30 on Wednesday night, where else might people be able to look for some drama? Well, what about Lille versus Feyenoord? 2 teams who could still claim an unlikely spot in the top 8 and save themselves a couple of games. Rimedi, your minute on this one starts now.
Where do you start with these 2 teams? Because they've been really interesting so far. They both sit in 11th and 12th place heading into this game. And it's going to be a game where both teams feel that they need to win to avoid the 2 extra games coming in the middle of February. First, we start on Feyenoord. Against Bayern Munich, they were battered. They were dominated. They were destroyed, yet they won 3-0. What a weird game. And obviously Lille, they picked up the defeat to Liverpool, but I think Lille take this game and I think Lille finish in the top 8. Lille so far this season in the Champions League, they've been defensively solid. They even picked up a huge win against Real Madrid, if we all remember. And I feel that with the likes of Edin Zegrova, Jonathan David, their midfield is tight, it's super strict when it comes to allowing chances. And I think Lille win this game 1-0 and I think Lille make it into the top 8 of the Champions League, which no one would have expected heading into the Champions League this season.
No, absolutely not. Right. So those are the 10 kind of feature games that we've previewed ahead of Wednesday night. But the guys have also previewed the other 8 games to take place. And so we've basically come up with what we think is going to be the final league phase table here on the screen. Talk us through it, lads. Basically, that if we're going to assume that the drama, or at least the focus on Wednesday night, will come in making the top 24, we've decided that City make it. That PSG make it. So there's no big faller at the early stage. But what else are the other kind of key takeaways from this league for you, Dean?
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of all hinge on that City versus Brugge game, because obviously if Brugge are holding out for a point, then Stuttgart could be heading out. That game could really explode. That game basically depends on what's happening in Manchester. I think the interesting one here as well is Villa just about missing out on the top 8. I think to beat Bayern, to get a draw with Juve, and with this kind of predicted table, they've beaten Celtic as well. it'll be so disappointing for them to just about miss out, especially when you look at some of the other teams that are going to have to play in a playoff: Real Madrid, Juventus, Dortmund, Bayern, and of course PSG and City as well. So I think that'll be really unfortunate for them to just about miss out.
Well, let's talk about that, because obviously there is seeding in the format, both for the top 8 and then for 9th through to 24th. So Rimedi, if it goes exactly like we're predicting, Villa will see themselves with a game against Stuttgart. But I mean, obviously there's PSG in that area, there's City in that area. That would be a real kick in the teeth, wouldn't it? After, like Dean says, that great work earlier in the season.
I feel that the Champions League so far, it's not helping the teams that see themselves as doing well. So we talk about the likes of a Liverpool or an Arsenal. They could end up realistically, they could be facing any team in this region here, which is kind of scary. And as an Arsenal fan, I do not want that to happen. Maybe if we go down the table slightly, potentially we could face a Sporting, a Feyenoord, a Brest, for example. So from our point of view, it's just really annoying that the big teams didn't really show up and show out so far this season in the Champions League. And yeah, big commiserations to Aston Villa, who probably have to face one of these teams, which is completely unfair on them.
I mean, it's almost a complete lottery, isn't it? Because it could be anyone from City and PSG to Stuttgart, Club Brugge, maybe, if it doesn't go the way that we're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, let's not sleep on Stuttgart either, though. And PSV, the Dutch teams have been really exciting to watch. So any game is going to be difficult in there, but yeah, obviously you'd rather play them than Man City or PSG. I think the one team that we want to look at as potential underperformers is RB Leipzig, right? They were a team that I would have said minimum top 24 going into it, and they've just been
number 1 seed.
It's been so disappointing from them, hasn't it? I don't even really know how that's come about.
They've had a tough run. I know they've had a ton of big games to play, and hopefully that means Benjamin Šeško, by the time this video comes out, could finally join us. But who knows?
We sat here in August or September, whenever it was, before match day 1, and we said that we quite liked the idea of that, or at least I remember you and I saying we quite like the format.
No, I did too.
Yeah, okay, cool. We as a team, we collectively
on
said
the same page.
We liked the format. 8 match days later, where do we stand on it, Rimedi?
Yeah, to be honest, the last phase or the old phase, it was really by match day 6, nothing really is on the line. The top 2 is already usually gone through already. And maybe this has brought some jeopardy, has brought some interest back. And I've personally really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think this time last year there was one group, wasn't there, that Milan, Dortmund, Newcastle and PSG, and it could have gone anywhere. And obviously all eyes were on that, and then the rest of it was just who kind of cares? It's all already done. Whereas with this, and we've spoke already kind of off air about Wednesday and all those games happening at the same time, and it might be a bit of a stress for us, but it'll be really exciting, I think. And I actually think there'll be seasons going forward where there's more riding on this as well. It won't just be those 2 or 3 games. It could be 4, 5, 6 games where there's so much on it. So, and to go back to the point that you made about sort of the big teams, it's not really worked out for them. I think in reality, if we're being honest, the big teams wanted this because it gave them a little bit more of an opportunity. And for it to kind of backfire is quite nice, I think.
Yeah. But will it backfire? I mean, I know we talked about Leipzig, they're missing out. And like I say, they're a pot 1 team. So I guess there is evidence to suggest there that, seeding doesn't get you everywhere. But we think City are going to go through. We think PSG are going to go through. Does this format give the big teams a bit more of a get out of jail card than the previous one?
It's tough. It's tough to say that, only because you kind of don't know how City would have performed if it was just 3 other teams in the group. But what I liked so far is that we've got to see a lot more of them dream clashes. We've seen City play so many big teams so far. We've seen PSG play a ton of big games so far. And we probably wouldn't have had that last season with them only just facing one other big team in the group. So, I was a fan of the Super League. Kill me. Just the interest, just a different format. And I feel that football always needs a change, and I really like this one.
And one other thing to just mention as well is the joy that it brings to those smaller clubs. We mentioned Celtic. I think it's been a long time since Celtic made the knockouts of the Champions League, and they're going through. And I think that is what makes this a better system. I know that's partly because there's so many teams that do go through, but I think it just makes it so much more interesting for a team like Celtic, gives them much more of a chance to go through, and I think that can only be a good thing in the long run.
I'm glad you mentioned Celtic. I was going to mention the smaller clubs that you picked out at the start of the season, but doesn't look so good for Girona and Sturm Graz.
And that's with a Sturm Graz win predicted over Leipzig as well. So.
Holding on to the very end. Going down fighting. Right, gents, thank you very much. That's all we have time for on episode 8 of the Squawka Predictor podcast. What do you think is going to happen as we head into this crunch Wednesday night in the Champions League? 18 games all kicking off at the same time. Don't think there's ever been anything like that happen in the Champions League before. We can't wait. Make sure you like and subscribe to get your football fix from Squawka and all of the rest of that good stuff. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again very soon.